Welcome back to the TwinSpires Racing Roundtable. I'm Ashley Anderson here with Vance Hanson and James Scully to look back at Turfway Park's Derby and Oaks prep races from this past weekend and look ahead to a major weekend of prep action at Aqueduct, Oaklawn, and Gulfstream Park. But let's dive right in and talk about the John Battaglia Memorial, which awarded 20 points to the winner this past week, and it was an upset with Great White. James, what were your takeaways from the John Battaglia?
I came away impressed by Great White. I don't know. I don't think it means a lot towards the Kentucky Derby, but he won his debut at 6 furlongs by open lengths. He had come back in the Leonidas in mid-January and just had a troubled trip. I think the trouble really cost him. He broke from the rail post that afternoon or evening and didn't really have a good chance. But we'll see him here. He gets out of the gate pretty well. He's the horse on the three deep on the front flight. And he's pressing a hot pace. That Turfway track to me was playing more than a second slow on Saturday. The fastest mile split you saw in the whole night was 139 and change. So Street Beast, who was coming off who was a sharp turf stakes winner last fall, ran fourth in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, and it was I thought, a very sharp winner of the Leonidas wire to wire. These raw times you'll see on the screen, 23.88 and 48.84. On paper, it might not look fast, but they were faster this evening. I think that track was playing real slow, and he was pushed along, and Great White's up there pressing him within about a length and a half the entire time. He makes his move to the lead here. The other horse that took a lot of money in here besides Street Beast is Full Effort, promising Brad Cox horse. You could see him in blue in the back, the gray, getting geared up. And he makes a real strong run at Great White. And Great White still kept finding more all the way to the wire. The thing about him is he's by Volatile, who was a Grade 1 winning sprinter and still a relatively young sire. And let me say, Volatile's thrown a bunch of two-turn graded stakes winners already, and Great White's female family is absolutely loaded with turf's like stamina. He's the first foal from his dam, but his dam was out of a mare that was a Group 1 winner at a mile and a quarter on turf, and its immediate female family of a Brazilian horse of the year that won at a mile and a half on turf. So there's lots of stamina, and I think turf ultimately will be Great White's best surface. But to me, he's got something going for him right now for John Ennis being 2 for 3 with his lone setback being a trouble trip.
Vance, are you in agreement? Were you impressed with Great White or lukewarm on the John Battaglia?
I was relatively impressed. I mean, he is a huge, physically imposing horse, and he really had a really difficult trip in this race, as you saw in the replay there. He was 3 and 4 wide most of the way. Now, most horses would have probably lost ground on the far turn after taking the worst of a trip like that, but he kept on going. And Ennis said after the race that he was still showing a lot of greenness here. He kind of waited on horses after he made the lead. So, and he did cling to victory. And as James noted, Full Effort came charging from the back. And honestly, Full Effort is the horse I would take out of this race going forward. I mean, he just needed another jump or two, and he would have won this race. And so he's had two tough losses in a row over the synthetic at Turfway, but they're both been promising efforts, and we'll see how he handles dirt eventually at some point, as well as Great White. Great White, I think, does have a lot of potential going forward. So I thought this was as far as the top two is concerned, I thought this was a pretty good prep race.
I agree with you on Full Effort, finding his best stride late, probably going to handle longer distances a little bit better. But John Ennis did say about Great White, the longer the better. He's a very big horse, and so they're still looking to see what the next prep will be for him. But both of those, the top two, I thought, have a lot of potential going forward. But the John Battaglia, I do want to note real quick the history of this race. We only have Rich Strike, who came out of it, who has won the Derby. Rich Strike, of course, was a very unique case, an 80-1 long shot and also eligible, who got in on the day of the Derby, I believe, and he was claimed out of a maiden claiming race. So very odd horse to come out of the John Battaglia. The rest of the 15 starters from the Kentucky Derby, only one has hit the board. So not exactly so far a prep that points toward the Kentucky Derby. But let's move on to the Cincinnati Trophy, which happened on Friday night, and we saw Resplendence wire the field got away with some slow fractions there. Vance, do you think the Cincinnati Trophy will have an impact on the Kentucky Oaks?
Not off of that race, and you said the slow fractions. I think that was an understatement. 25 seconds for the first quarter, 50 and 4 for the half, 15 and 4 for 6 furlongs. I mean, she just walked the dog in this race. There was really no other speed on paper going into it. And even though that was the case, she still went off at a pretty nice price. But then again, she was only coming off of a slow maiden win for her connections. So I didn't see much out of this race that I think is going to make much of an impact on the Oaks Trail going forward.
James,
Yeah,
how do you feel about it?
I agree with Vance. I mean, 1:6 almost. She needed almost a minute 16 to go six furlongs, and she's out there just in hand, everything her own way. So really, sort of a facsimile of her maiden win, 2 starts back, where she just had everything her own way on a moderate pace and got the job done. Now she. To me, she's got some promise on the turf off of these back-to-back wins. She's another one, sort of like Great White, where I could see them continuing to develop on turf. But right now, I don't think that Resplendence is going to be a valid or a viable Kentucky Oaks contender this spring.
It was a weird race, and unfortunately, Dame Laura put in tight quarters, suffered an injury early
Yeah,
on, and was taken out. Was going to be a heavy favorite in that
she
race,
was
but
even money. Yeah.
yeah, but Resplendence, yeah. I don't know that you can take a lot away from this and feel overly confident going forward, but for what it's worth, Palo Lobo did have an upset winner in the Oaks back in 2002 with Farda Amiga, so maybe this one could surprise us. And this was the 57th stakes winner for Justified, just noting that as well before we move on. But let's look ahead to this coming weekend where we have major prep action happening at Aqueduct, Oaklawn, and Gulfstream Park. And I'll start with James. Who are you most looking forward to of the 3-year-olds to run this weekend?
Well, I think the Fountain of Youth is the deepest Kentucky Derby prep so far this year. You got 4 undefeated 3-year-olds in there. You even got Alana Nearly, who's an impressive winner of the Holy Bull with the runner-up Bravaro in there. But I'm looking at Commandment in there. That race is loaded with speed, with Napoleon
There's quite
Solo.
a few. Yeah, there's
Napoleon. I was telling Vance earlier. Napoleon Solo and Solitude Dude both ran 44 and 1/2 miles in a hand ride, winning stakes races. I mean, they're going to guarantee a blistering pace. Brad Cox has had Cannoneer, Confessional, Rancho Santa Fe, and others disappoint this year. He's running out of Derby contenders, so I want to see how Commandment does, making his 2-turn debut in there off of a nice win in the Mucho Macho Man. I'll also bring up I Tab Search Party and Silent Tactic in the Martha Washington and Southwest. They both proved best. Neither one of them. Search Party was the 3rd choice. Silent Tactic was the 6th choice. And neither one of them is going to be favored. I think they'll be 3rd choice at best in the Rebel and Honeybee this Sunday. And I like them both back for Mark Cassey. So I'd be remiss to not mention that. Vance, what do you got for this
Well,
weekend?
I just wanted to note real quick, Commandment, pull 2. I got
Yes.
$10 at 99 to 1. Thanks to Tony Kalo. I think I've incorrectly told you all in the past that he liked Cannoneer, he liked Commandment. And so I'm also curious for these reasons to
Are you
see.
sure you didn't get those horses confused and just bet both of them because you weren't sure which one it was?
No, I know Tony Kalo, he placed this bet. This was a Christmas gift. So
Oh, okay.
I know I have Commandment, yes.
Okay.
But Vance, who are you most looking forward to this weekend?
Well, the Gotham is not a major prep like the Fountain of Youth and the Rebel will be, but Iron Honor, I got that name right. Iron Honor, second time starter for Chad Brown, won his debut at Aqueduct in December. He didn't win by a whole lot, by a length or so, or a length or two, but he did earn a 99 Brisnet speed rating, which was one of the top figures earned by a 2-year-old last year. He's going to stretch out successfully. The Gotham is absolutely filled with pace. He's going to get a great setup, and he's going to be probably even money, perhaps less, but I'm just excited to see what his development will be in the Gotham. And then I'll echo what James said about Silent Tactic in the Southwest. I also had a nice bet on him last month in the Southwest. He comes back in the Rebel. He's not going to be the favorite again. He just looks so good winning the Southwest. Didn't earn the best speed rating though. He needs to quicken a little bit, but I'm excited to see what he can do against a much stronger field.
And for me, aside from Commandment, I was interested in the two Pletcher horses that we're going to have running in prep races this weekend, because a year after he missed the Derby entirely, he's got a ton of runners that are in contention early for the Kentucky Derby. You've got Renegade, Nearly, Grittiness, Courting, Epic Desire with points already, but Jackson Hole, who's going to be in the Fountain of Youth. And then we're also going to have Class President in the Rebel. Did I get those two races right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looking at so many horses, I was like, okay. But yes, Jackson Hole, who was a $1.3 million purchase by Nyquist out of a Bernardini mare, and he closed this past weekend, or the Risen Star weekend, 45-1 in Pool 4. He's going to be pressing the early pace, but he had a debut win going 7 furlongs and then came back to score by 5.5 lengths, which you just saw at the fairgrounds. And then Class President closed at 75-1 in Pool 4, and he's gonna have Johnny V aboard a day later at Oaklawn, and he's gonna go up. He's gonna be involved in that early pace, I believe, but hold on a second. I've lost track of my notes. They're both going to be up front early, but I think these are two that I'm going to be looking out for, because I had Class President circled in a past pool, but two more to look out for Todd Pletcher, who seems to have an unending array of Derby contenders this year.
Yeah, that Jackson Hole win came on the Lecomte undercard. We've seen Reagan's Honor and some other horses like Trouble Calling come back that ran on that Lecomte undercard and look good. And I'm excited to see him. Now, one thing about him is both of his wins have come wire to wire, and there's no chance he's going to switch to stalking tactics and must work out a trip from the rail. But he's a real promising son of Nyquist. There's a lot of good Nyquist out there. This Iron Honor is a dynamite, and he's the son of Nyquist for Chad Brown, who, to me, he's going to be so short in that race. Like Vance said, he's got to figure a sheet number and a speed rating that lays over his rivals.
We're going to be talking about a lot of these races on our TwinSpires jury on Thursday, focusing on the Oaklawn, Oaks, and Derby prep races, then look at the Fountain of Youth. But anything else to wrap up on our pretty quick roundtable today?
No, that'll be it.
That's it. All right. We'll have a lot more to say next week with all this Derby and Oaks prep action, but we will see you then. So thanks for joining us.